adjustment. Anyway, so they probably came here once before and they decided never to come back again. It was like, whoa! And they're like, okay, we're going to leave those other white guys alone. But yeah, anyway, so I went to this place called Epidavros, and it was well known, like way back, maybe in 1000 BC, for being a place where they began apothecary, which is medicine, and you know, basically these people called the Asclepiae were famous in Greece for finding methods of healing. And when I was there was a play being put on at this amphitheater, and it was the Russian theater company acting with the Greek theater company, both talking in their mother language, but they were doing Oedipus Rex. And, you know, the performance was almost, it was impossible to understand unless you spoke both Russian and Greek, which I spoke neither. And yet just watching the performance and the way that the sound resonated out of this space, you were still caught in the emotional quality of the performance. So words aside, you were still swept up in the spirit of the performance. And I liken that to when you listen to music or when you look at art on a wall. It's not a language, it's a language of paint, or it's the language of music. But acting is also kind of like, it comes down to the signal that you have to give off as a performer. And what helped me understand that better was that at this particular place called Epidavros, the Asclepiae had built the very first amphitheater. I didn't realize until that night that what an important space I was sitting in. And the people there said to me, this was the very first amphitheater that was ever built. And it was built by the Asclepiae. Are you going somewhere, kid? Security. Anyway, I'll get back to you. Anyway, so why they had built this space was because the Asclepiae were the first people to realize that the voice was a medicine, that your voice carried a quality to it, a signal to it that could reach people and affect them. You know, like for instance, as an actor, you can be giving off a certain signal, but you're not saying the words that match that signal, yet you have to match that emotion. You know, and so the audience at home will understand what's going on between Crixus. You know, even when Crixus is there and he's in his most brutal form, you know, after you've watched it a bit, then you know what he's saying underneath. No longer does the dialogue matter. You know, and so there was this incredible realization when I was standing in this place in Greece, where I realized that as an artist, you know, who's coming across that box in your living room, probably my greatest responsibility is to emanate a signal, you know, that is about the human condition. And I think that I've had some pretty good roles to tune that kind of thing in with. Maybe aside from Azog. Aside from the fact that when I decided I tried to make some choices for Azog, and the night before I went in and filmed for the first time, I watched Jaws, and I watched Empire Strikes Back. And I based the movement of Azog on the white pointer, the white shark Jaws. If you watch it again, watch the way that I lurk, because I knew that in the movie Jaws, the shark is most menacing when it's just cruising around, and kind of like it never, you don't see the jaws until the last moment. So when I was playing, especially in the first scene that I shot with Peter Jackson, I said, Peter, can I not be facing the camera? And he was like, what? And I said, can I have my back to the camera? And he said, well, why? And I said, well, I watched Jaws last night. And I kind of want to make this approach. Now this is your turn, kid. Get up here. Come over here to the middle. Now, who remembers the first scene in The Hobbit that Azog appeared in, and he was up in this big...
We literally saw it before you came in.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we played it on the big screen.
Oh, okay. Well, he was like this, right?
Yeah.
He was kind of like this. And he did this little look over his shoulder like this, so you only saw the corner of his eye. And then when I turned around, I purposely put my head down. Now, I'll just go back a little bit. So I was trying to do the white shark, because I think that's probably the film that terrified the planet the most. I bet you even when you're out there naked swimming off the coast down the south here, a few of you were, is there a shark here? Even, are there great white sharks in England?
No.
No, I don't think so. But I bet you after Jaws, whenever you're in for a swim, you're going like, oh, where's that shark, right? Anyway, so as I was playing this character, I had that in mind, and I also based him upon, then I watched Empire Strikes Back, and I decided to go for the voice of James Earl Jones. You know, if you listen to Azog, you know, there was this kind of tone to it, like, you know, like James Earl Jones would say, like, you know, I am your father, Luke. And Azog would go like, Ubak di Luke now. It was this deep, push down, low, throaty voice. And even at one stage I went like, and I went like this because Joseph Campbell, who wrote the mythology, how all mythologies are linked by a common story, advised on that movie and told Lucas that he should base the Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers upon the German Nazi Party. And so basically the whole thing on the Death Star, where you see Darth Vader walking through the middle, is the exact replica of the Nuremberg rally. Yeah. Is anybody aware of that? If you look at it, it's like Hitler walking with Goering and Goebbels or whatever, a couple of those guys, and he's walking up the middle of the Stormtroopers. It's exactly set out like the Nuremberg rally. And I took some of these kind of symbols, you know, like, you know, you watch Azog when he goes like that. That was because, okay, we're sort of going, it's like an onion. Whenever I talk, it's like, you gotta stick with me. It's like an onion. So, what happened was Adolf Hitler, if you don't know this, was actually taught by a Jew how to have stage presence. There was a magician working in Berlin who was in a theater captivating his audience. And Adolf Hitler saw this guy and wanted to know how to influence a crowd because this guy was so good at it. And this guy taught him stage presence, how to captivate a crowd, and also told him that you need, as soon as you get numbers, then you can influence those numbers. You know, the bigger the audience you've got, the more captivating it can be. And honestly, on that principle, he started building this idea of how to have a stage presence. That magician was later killed on, I think, on the night of the knives or something.
Long knives.
Yeah, he was killed on that night, that particular magician. True story. But anyway, so with this in mind, I sort of watched all this stuff and absorbed it all, and then sort of thought I'd throw that all into Azog. Back to the white shark. Okay, so Jaws is kind of like this, and then, you know, this orc came up and was like, oh, sorry, Azog, we let them get away. They escaped. And like Azog sort of just turns over one shoulder. Like I just tried to be like, you know, Jaws, and I went, dum, 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 dum. And I said to Peter Jackson, what's on the stairs here? Can we have the big wolf? There was nothing there at all. And Peter Jackson said, oh yeah, we can put your wolf there. Because I just didn't want to look up. I wanted to keep the jaws coming in. So I just sort of patted the air, and later on there was the wag was put there. So I sort of patted this and I walked further forward, and the whole thing was suppressed by the movement. And then it was like, dum, 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 dum. And then I remembered, I said to Peter, I want to treat this orc like he's a child. And I just want to run my hand through his hair. Good and easy, good enough. And at that point, I ripped the kid up and threw him through the audience. No, it was an orc, but I'm not going to do that to the kid. But that was the Jaws moment that came at that moment. Thanks, for your help.
Round of applause.
Round of applause again.